Welcome to Monk's Temple. What if the very thing you've been searching for, peace, rest, a quiet mind, has been with you all along, waiting patiently beneath the noise? What if the answers weren't ahead of you, but already here, in the stillness you carry inside? Tonight, we aren't going anywhere. We're simply coming home. To ourselves. I want you to find a comfortable position. Maybe you're in bed, the day finally releasing its grip. Maybe you're on a couch, wrapped in a blanket. Wherever you are, let yourself be here fully. Let the weight of your body be supported. Let your eyes soften, or close gently. There's nothing to achieve in this next hour, nowhere to go. Just this. Just listening. Just being. And as you settle, I invite you to subscribe to Monk's Temple. By subscribing, you create a sanctuary, a gentle reminder in your daily life to return to this peace. It's like planting a seed of stillness that grows each time you return. Welcome. Let me begin with a story from my own life, many years ago, when my understanding was just a seedling. I was traveling through the mountains, and I came to a vast, ancient forest. The path was unclear, overgrown. I had a map, but it was old, and the landmarks didn't seem to match. For hours, I walked in circles, growing more frustrated, more tired. The sun began to set, and a cold fear started to creep in, the fear of being lost. Exhausted, I finally stopped. I leaned against the trunk of a great pine tree, its bark rough and real against my back. And I did the only thing I hadn't tried, I stopped trying to find the way. I just sat. I listened to the wind and the needles above. I felt the cool earth beneath me. I noticed my own frantic heartbeat begin to slow. And in that stopping, in that surrender, I saw it. Not 3 feet from where I sat, almost hidden by ferns, was a small, smooth stone cairn, a trail marker. It had been there the whole time. My striving, my panic, my insistence on figuring it out had blinded me to what was right beside me. This is the first and often the last truth we must remember. The peace you seek is not at the end of the journey. It is in the pause within it. It is not the destination, but the ground upon which you walk. In the teachings of Buddhism, this is our starting point, that our suffering often comes from searching outside for what can only be found by turning inward and resting right where we are. There was once a master weaver named Lila, renowned across the land. Her tapestries were so vivid, people said you could hear the birds sing in her forests and feel the breeze from her woven seas. She worked on a single, magnificent piece for years, a depiction of the entire cosmos, stars, galaxies, the dance of light and shadow. One evening, as she added the final, intricate stitches to a constellation, her cat leapt through the open window, tangling in the threads. The loom shuddered. The delicate work of years, the central portion of her cosmos, unraveled in a chaotic cascade of colored thread, piling in a hopeless heap on the floor. Lila's students, who had been watching in silent awe, gasped. Some cried out. One rushed forward as if to catch the falling threads. They looked at their teacher, expecting devastation. Lila simply sat back on her stool. She looked at the heap of silk and wool, a universe undone. She then did something extraordinary. She picked up the tangled mass, not with frustration, but with curiosity. She began to sort the threads, not by their original place, but by their color, their texture. Master, a student whispered, your great work, it's ruined. Lila smiled, a genuine, gentle smile. "Is it?" she asked. "Look. For years, I was attached to a picture in my mind. This thread must be here. That color must go there. I was a slave to the form. Now," she said, holding up a skein of deep blue, "now I am simply with the thread itself. The form has changed, but the beauty of the materials has not." She began to weave again. Not to recreate the old image, but to allow a new one to emerge from the freedom of the unraveling. The tapestry that grew was unlike anything she'd made before. It was abstract, flowing, a meditation on color and form itself. Many later said it was her truest masterpiece. The Buddha taught that attachment to form is the root of suffering. We fall in love with the picture, our life as we think it should be, our plans, our expectations. When life inevitably changes, when the thread unravels, we suffer. We cry over the lost picture. But what if we could learn from Lila? What if, when things fall apart, we could touch the raw materials of our experience, the feelings, the changes, the unknown, with curiosity instead of fear? The form is always changing. The thread of your being, your awareness, your capacity for peace, remains. It can be woven into infinite new patterns, each one perfect in its moment. Tonight, if you feel a sense of something lost, something unraveled, see if you can gently put down the picture of how it should have been. Feel the threads of this present moment instead. They are what you have. And they are enough to begin weaving again. In a monastery perched on a cliff above a roaring sea, there was a tradition. Every evening, at the precise moment the sun dipped below the horizon, the eldest monk would strike a great bronze bell once. The sound would roll out over the waves, deep and clear, a daily marker of time's passage. A young novice was given the honored duty of polishing this bell. He did so with great care, making its surface mirror the sky. But he became obsessed with the sound. He believed the purity of the note was a measure of spiritual purity. He would tense as the moment approached, worried the strike wouldn't be perfect. The sound began to feel like a judgment to him. One night, a tremendous storm blew in. Fierce winds shook the monastery. As the sun set, invisible behind storm clouds, the wind tore the bell striker from its mount and sent it crashing over the cliff into the raging sea below. The novice was horrified. The tradition was broken. The bell would remain silent. He approached the elder, full of apology and dread. The old monk listened, then nodded. "Come," he said. He led the novice to the bell tower. The great bell hung still in the stormy twilight. "Strike it," the elder said. "But, the striker is gone, master," the novice stammered. "Use your hand," the elder said softly. Tentatively, the novice tapped the cold bronze with his knuckle. It gave a faint, dull thud. "Again," said the elder. He did. Another small sound, lost in the wind. "Now," said the elder, placing his own aged hand on the bell's surface, "listen." He meant not to the sound of a strike, but to the silence within the bell. The novice placed his hand beside his teacher's. He felt the cool, smooth metal. He felt the vibration of the wind humming against it, a subtle, endless song. He felt the immense, resonant silence inside the vessel, a silence that could hold any sound, but was complete without it. In that moment, he understood. He had been listening for the performance, the perfect note, the external proof of harmony. He had missed the harmony itself, the vast, silent capacity that made the sound possible. The bell was not its ringing. It was the space that allowed the ring. Our minds are like this. We chase the perfect thoughts, the peaceful feelings, the resonant achievements. We tense up, waiting to strike the right note, and we suffer when life storms take our strikers away. Buddhism gently guides us to touch the silent bell of our own awareness. Feel the space within which thoughts arise and pass. That awareness, silent, vast, unmoved by the storms of thought or emotion, is your true nature. The sounds of life, joyful or painful, are temporary. The space that holds them is always here, undisturbed. As you rest, feel that inner space. Don't try to make it ring with perfect peace. Just feel its presence, like the hollow of the bell. It is here, in the quiet between your breaths, in the stillness behind your closed eyes. In a village where the sun shone strong and bright most days, there lived a gardener named Alara. Her gardens were legendary. Tournaments of scarlet blooms, emerald vines heavy with fruit, herbs that perfumed the air. She worked from dawn to dusk, and everyone said her success came from her relentless care. But Alara had a secret dread: rain. When clouds gathered, she would grow anxious. Rain meant she couldn't work. It meant mud, drooping petals, unpredictable changes. She saw it as an interruption to her perfect control. She would stand at her window, watching the falling drops with a frown, counting the lost hours of productivity. One season, a gentle but persistent rain fell for 3 days. Alara felt trapped, useless. On the third afternoon, frustration boiling over, she threw on a cloak and marched into her garden, intending to, she didn't know what. Fight the weather. Standing in the soft drizzle, something shifted. Instead of seeing drooping flowers, she saw them drinking, each petal beaded with crystal. She heard not an annoying patter, but a million tiny drums on broad leaves. The earth smelled rich and alive, a scent no watering can could replicate. She saw a worm emerging, tilling the soil she could never reach. A snail made a slow, silver path on a stone. She stood there, soaked, and began to laugh. She had been trying to be the sole creator of this garden, battling the very forces that made creation possible. The rain wasn't an interruption. It was a co-creator. Her work was not to control, but to collaborate, to prune where the rain couldn't, to plant what the sun would later nourish. From that day, Alara learned to love the rain. She would sit on her porch, listening to it work, knowing it was doing a deeper, more essential task than she ever could. We often treat our inner peace like Alara treated her garden. We want to control every condition. We see difficult emotions, tiredness, unexpected events as bad weather interrupting our perfect calm. We fight against the rain of life. The wisdom of the Buddha is the wisdom of Alara in the drizzle. Peace isn't the absence of rain. It's the understanding that rain, too, belongs. It's the ability to sit on the porch of your own awareness and watch the weather of your life. The storms of anxiety, the gentle drizzles of sadness, the bright sun of joy, knowing none of it is the fundamental ground. The ground is your awareness, the garden itself, which receives all weather and uses it to grow. You don't have to control the weather in your mind tonight. You can't. Simply notice it. There is a feeling of worry, like a gray cloud. Here is a memory, like a sudden sunbeam. Don't judge the weather. Just be the garden that holds it all. The peace is in the holding, not in the particular condition of the sky. In a town at the edge of a great forest, there were two woodcarvers. The first, Cale, was driven and ambitious. He would enter the forest with a precise, detailed drawing. He sought only the perfect piece of wood, straight-grained, flawless, exactly the right size. He would reject hundreds of branches and logs, his frustration growing with each imperfect find. When he did find a piece, he would attack it with fierce intensity, forcing the wood to match his vision. His carvings were technically impressive, but they felt rigid, cold. He was often exhausted and dissatisfied. The second carver, Sam, moved differently. He would wander into the forest without a plan. He would run his hands over gnarled roots, knotted logs, crooked branches. He would sit with a piece for a long time, just looking, feeling. People would ask, "What are you going to make?" He'd smile and say, "I'm waiting to see what it wants to be." He saw a story in a bend, a face in a knot. His tools were gentle, following the wood's natural flow, revealing the shape that seemed to sleep within. His carvings were full of life and warmth. They felt alive. He would finish each day serene, often holding a piece that looked nothing like his original, vague idea, but was somehow exactly right. Cale once scoffed at Sam, holding up one of his own, perfect, carvings. "My work obeys my will." Sam nodded, holding up a figure that seemed to dance from a twisted root. "My work," he said softly, "is a conversation with the wood. I listen more than I command." Our minds, our lives, are like that forest. We can be like Cale, armed with rigid plans for how our day, our career, our peace must be. We search for perfect conditions, reject anything that doesn't fit, and force our experience into a predetermined mold. It's exhausting, and the result often feels lifeless. The Buddhist path is more like Sam's way. It is the practice of gentle attention. It is sitting with the gnarled, knotted moments of your life, the frustrations, the quiet joys, the boring stretches, and listening. What is here? Instead of forcing a feeling away or grasping at a desired one, you simply acknowledge what is present. This is anxiety. This is calm. This is weariness. In that gentle, non-judgmental listening, something is revealed. You start to see the natural grain of your being. Peace isn't something you carve out of life by force of will. It's something you discover by listening to life as it is. It's the conversation, not the imposition. Tonight, try Sam's way. Don't try to carve your mind into a state of perfect peace. Just listen to it. Feel its grain, the thoughts, the sensations, the silence between them. The art is not in the perfect peace you imagine, but in the loving attention you give to the one you have. At the entrance to an ancient, walled city, there was a gatekeeper named Tor. His duty was to tend a great iron brazier that burned day and night, a symbol of welcome and warmth for travelers. Tor took immense pride in his fire. He believed its height and brightness reflected on him. Every time the flames dwindled, even slightly, Tor would panic. He would frantically add more wood, blow on the embers, rearrange the logs. The fire would leap and roar, and Tor would feel a brief satisfaction. But he was constantly on edge, watching for the slightest dip, fearful of the judgment of others if the fire was ever less than spectacular. He was weary, soot-stained, and perpetually anxious. One harsh winter, a wise wandering teacher arrived at the gate, shivering. She watched Tor's frantic dance for a while as he fought against a wind that was stealing his flames. "Gatekeeper," she said, her voice calm. "Why do you fight the fire?" "I must keep it high." Tor puffed, adding another log. "It must be impressive." The teacher nodded. "May I tend it for a watch?" she asked. Exhausted, Tor agreed. The teacher did something strange. She let the fire burn down to a bed of glowing, red-hot coals. She didn't add wood. She simply placed a large, thick log at the edge of the coals and sat quietly. Tor nearly protested, but held his tongue. Slowly, patiently, the deep heat of the coals began to seep into the log. It didn't roar into flame immediately. It smoked, then sizzled, then finally caught from the inside out. The flame that grew was not a frantic, leaping blaze, but a steady, deep, and incredibly warm and enduring fire. It resisted the wind because its source was deep within the heart of the wood. "You see," the teacher said, "you were feeding the show of the flame, which is hungry and needs constant fuel. I tended the source, the deep coal bed of heat. From that source, even the largest log will light in time, and burn steadily through the longest night." We often tend to our inner peace like Tor tending his fire. We chase impressive states of calm, we panic at any flicker of disturbance, we frantically add positive affirmations or distractions to keep a bright show of wellness. It's exhausting, and the peace is fragile. The meditation taught in Buddhism is not about creating a spectacular, constant blaze of tranquility. It is about tending the bed of coals, your fundamental awareness. When you sit quietly, you're not trying to manufacture a flame. You're allowing the frantic, surface-level fires to burn down. You're resting in the deep, glowing warmth of simply being present. From that deep, steady source, warmth and light naturally radiate, enduring and resilient. Your mind doesn't need to be a blazing spectacle tonight. Let the surface disturbances settle. Find the deep, quiet coals of your awareness beneath them. Rest there. That is the true, enduring fire. It needs no defense. There is a lake high in the mountains, so still and clear it is said to be a perfect mirror for the sky. For generations, people would climb to see their reflection in its flawless surface. A young artist heard of this lake and dreamed of painting its perfect mirrored image. When he arrived, however, the weather had changed. A breeze stirred the surface. The reflection was shattered into 10,000 shimmering fragments. The mountains and sky were there, but broken, dancing. The artist was devastated. He cursed the wind. He waited for days, but the breeze never fully ceased. Finally, in despair, he decided to paint what was there. Not the perfect mirror, but the shimmering dance of light. As he painted, something happened. In capturing the movement, the infinite points of light, his painting became more alive, more dynamic, more true to that moment than any static reflection could ever be. He realized the imperfect lake was showing him a deeper truth: reality is not a fixed image, but a vibrant, ever-changing interplay. We often approach our minds like that artist seeking a perfect mirror. We want a still, clear, perfectly peaceful reflection, no ripples of thought, no winds of emotion. When the inevitable breeze of life stirs our surface, we think we've failed. My meditation is broken. I've lost my peace. The Buddha's insight shows us the shimmer instead of demanding the mirror. Your awareness is not the broken reflection on the surface. It is the lake itself, deep, vast, capable of holding both perfect stillness and 10,000 shimmering movements. The peace is not the absence of ripples. It is the depth that contains them all without being disturbed in its essence. As you lie here, don't seek a glassy, thought-free surface. Notice the shimmer. The thoughts are just ripples on the deep water of your being. Let them shimmer and pass. You are the lake, not the weather on its surface. This is an ancient story from the time of the Buddha himself, retold in its essence. The Buddha's devoted attendant, Ananda, was tasked with filling the lamps for the evening. Carrying a precious vessel of scented oil, he walked with great care. But on the stone path, he stumbled. The vessel slipped, and the golden oil spilled across the dark stones. Ananda was stricken with guilt. This was oil offered by devotees, meant for light. He began to frantically try to scoop it back up with his hands, a futile and messy effort. The Buddha, who had seen this, approached. He didn't scold or console. He simply asked, Ananda, when the oil was in the vessel, what was its nature? Ananda, confused, replied, it was liquid, master. Clear. Able to give light. And now that it is on the stones, the Buddha asked gently, has its nature changed? Is it still liquid? Clear. Ananda looked at the oil shimmering on the path. Yes, master. Its nature is the same. Then why do you struggle so? The Buddha asked. You are attached to the form of oil-in vessel. That form has changed. The oil itself has not been lost. It will soak into the earth, or evaporate and join the clouds, and may return as rain. You are suffering not because of the event, but because of your attachment to how you thought the event should be. He continued, your mind is like this. You cling to thoughts, feelings, and circumstances as vessels, permanent, fixed containers for your experience. When they inevitably change or spill, you panic, trying to scoop back what cannot be held. See the nature of the experience itself, not just its temporary form. Let it flow. It is not lost, it is simply changing. This is the heart of the Buddha's teaching on impermanence. Our suffering is the sticky residue of clinging. Peace is the willingness to let the oil of our experience be what it is, where it is, trusting the greater flow of life. In a village known for its pottery, there was a master potter renowned for her beautiful, delicate bowls. She would form them lovingly, then fire them in her kiln, where the heat would harden them into permanence. One day, she formed a bowl that was, to her eye, the most perfect she had ever made. The curves were exquisite, the symmetry flawless. As she carried it to the kiln, a sudden gust of wind slammed her workshop door. Startled, she fumbled, and the perfect, unfired bowl fell to the earthen floor. It did not break. But it was deformed, its perfect rim now softly bent, its symmetry made unique by a gentle dent. The potter's heart sank. The perfection was ruined. She was about to scoop up the clay to wedge it back into a lump when she stopped. She picked up the bowl. She turned it in her hands. The dent caught the light differently. The bent rim gave it a character, a softness the perfect version lacked. It was no longer technically flawless, but it had become interesting. Beautiful in a different, more alive way. She did not fire it. She placed it on her shelf as it was, soft, fragile, imperfect. It became her favorite piece, a reminder that beauty does not require permanence or perfection. Its very fragility made it precious. We try so hard to fire our lives, to make them permanent, secure, fixed in a state of perfect happiness. We see the soft, unfired moments, vulnerability, change, imperfection, as mistakes to be corrected. The path of mindfulness invites us to appreciate the unfired bowl. Your feelings, your current state, your life as it is right now, it may not be the hardened, permanent perfection you envisioned. It may be soft, fragile, uniquely dented by experience. But that is its beauty. Its aliveness. You don't have to fire it in the kiln of judgment. You can hold it gently, as it is, and see the beauty in its unique, temporary form. Imagine you are walking on a narrow, ancient rope bridge over a deep canyon. The winds are howling. The bridge sways. Your instinct is to freeze, to cling to the ropes, to look down at the terrifying drop. Your mind becomes the storm, fear, panic, what-ifs. Now, imagine you remember a simple instruction: look at the next plank. Just the one in front of you. Feel your foot meet it. Then the next. Your world narrows to this plank, this step, this breath. The canyon is still there, the wind still blows, but you are no longer fighting the whole vast situation. You are engaged in the single, manageable act of crossing. Your breath is that plank. Right now. In this moment, the winds of worry about tomorrow, the canyon of regrets from yesterday, they are vast and daunting. But you are not asked to solve them all now. You are simply invited to feel this breath. The cool air entering, the warm air leaving. The rise and fall of your chest or belly. This simple, powerful practice is the heart of Buddhist meditation. It is not about escaping the canyon. It is about finding the bridge of the present moment, plank by plank, breath by breath. Anxiety cannot exist when your full attention is on the sensation of this single inhalation. It has no room to spread. Whenever you feel lost in the vastness of your thoughts, return to the bridge. Find the next plank. This breath. This sound in the room. This sensation of the blanket. You cross the chasm of suffering not in a giant leap, but in these small, steady steps of present moment awareness. Picture an ancient, vast hall with stone walls. In the center, on a tall stand, a single candle burns. The hall is drafty. Winds swirl in from unseen crevices. The candle flame flutters, dances wildly, stretches thin, threatens to snuff out. It burns bright, then dim, in a frantic struggle. Now, imagine taking that same candle and placing it inside a simple lantern of thin, translucent paper. The lantern doesn't stop the wind from blowing. But it surrounds the flame with a gentle, protective space. The wind still moves the lantern, makes it sway. But inside, the flame burns steady, calm, and bright. It is not at war with the draft. It is simply sheltered within a space of its own. Your awareness is the candle. The winds are the endless thoughts, external noises, worries, and pressures of life. Trying to make the wind stop is like trying to seal the ancient hall, impossible. Mindfulness is the paper lantern. It is the gentle, non-judgmental space you create around your experience. You don't stop the thoughts. You don't fight the external noise. You simply notice, there is the wind of planning. There is the draft of a memory. By noticing, you create a subtle inner lantern. The experience happens within your awareness, but your awareness, like the steady flame, is not identical to it. It can remain calm, even while the lantern sways. You are not the frantic, wind-whipped flame. You are the capacity to hold the flame steady within the lantern of gentle attention. As you rest, feel that inner lantern around your flickering thoughts. Let them blow. Your job is just to be the steady light within the space that holds them. This is a classic Taoist story embraced by Buddhist teachings for its profound wisdom. A man is rowing his small boat down a river on a foggy morning. Through the mist, he sees another boat, drifting directly toward him on a collision course. He shouts, "Watch out! Change course!" The boat does not alter its path. He shouts again, waving his arms, growing angry. "You fool! Turn aside!" The boat continues silently, inevitably toward him. Furious, as it gets closer, he stands up, ready to scream at the irresponsible boatman. As the boat bumps gently into his, he sees it is empty, just an old fisherman's skiff that had come loose from its moorings, adrift on the current. In an instant, his anger vanishes. There is no one to be angry at. He might feel annoyance at the situation, but the roaring, personal fury has nothing to latch onto. The Buddha taught that most of our suffering is like this. We spend our days shouting at empty boats. The traffic jam, the rude email, the spilled coffee, the delayed plans, these are empty boats. They are not personal attacks. They are just events, drifting on the current of cause and condition. Our suffering comes from the story we add, "This is being done to me by a someone, a universe, a person, a God, who is inconsiderate, malicious, or unfair." When we see the emptiness of the boat, the impersonal nature of most events, our anger and frustration have no target. They simply dissipate. We can then deal with the situation calmly, untangle the boats, clean the spill, adjust to the delay. Tonight, if a thought arises that feels like a personal affront, a worry that feels like an attack, a memory that feels like a persecution, see if you can look for the boatman. Is there really a someone doing this to you? Or is it just an empty boat of thought, drifting on the current of past habits and conditions? Without a target, the storm of emotion has nowhere to land. A child holds an acorn in her palm. "This is an acorn," she says. And she is right. A gardener looks at the same acorn. "This is a potential oak tree," he thinks. And he is right. A squirrel looks at the acorn. "This is food," it thinks. And it is right. The acorn itself does not know what it is. It simply is. Its suchness contains all possibilities, but it is not fixed as any one of them until it meets conditions, soil, rain, time, or a squirrel's hunger. We label our experiences this way. A feeling arises. This is anxiety, we declare, and we treat it as a threat. This is boredom, we sigh, and treat it as a deficiency. We freeze the flowing suchness of our experience into a fixed, often problematic, identity. What if, like the acorn, your present moment experience is simply what it is, full of multiple possibilities? The tight sensation in your chest could be labeled anxiety, or it could be felt as intense energy. The quiet mind could be labeled boredom, or it could be experienced as spaciousness. Buddhist meditation cultivates this beginner's mind, the ability to see the acorn before the label. To feel the raw sensation before the story of what it means. When you stop labeling an experience as a problem, you often find it changes, or at least loses its power to disturb you. It just is. And in that, just isness, there is a profound peace. Rest now without labeling your state. Don't call it sleepy, or restless, or peaceful. Just feel what is. Be like the child, the gardener, and the squirrel all at once, knowing that what you hold is more than any single definition. In a forgotten courtyard, there were two sources of water. One was an ornate fountain. It shot water high into the air in elaborate patterns. It sparkled in the sun, made beautiful sounds. But it was fed by a pipe from the town supply. When the supply was cut, the fountain fell silent and dry immediately, becoming merely a stone sculpture. The other was a simple, mossy cistern. It had no spectacle. It gathered rainwater slowly, silently, in its deep stone basin. It was always cool, always full to some level, sustaining the moss and the insects that lived around it. Whether rain fell or the sun shone, it maintained its own deep reserve. We often cultivate a fountain mind. We seek spectacular states of joy, exciting experiences, dramatic proofs of our peace. We are dependent on external conditions, good news, perfect circumstances, validation, to keep our water shooting high. When conditions change, we run dry and feel empty. The practice of Buddhism cultivates the cistern mind. It is not showy. It is the deep, inner collection of mindful presence. You gather awareness moment by moment, breath by breath, through formal meditation and simple daily attention. This builds a reserve that is not dependent on external weather. When life brings drought, stress, loss, difficulty, you have a deep, cool reservoir of stillness to draw from. You may not sparkle, but you will not run dry. You are building your cistern right now, by simply listening, by simply being here. Each moment of gentle attention adds a drop to your inner reserve. It's not dramatic. It's essential. This is another profound story from the Buddhist time, told anew. A young woman named Kisa, overcome with unbearable grief after the death of her only child, carried his small body from house to house, begging for medicine to bring him back to life. People pitied her, called her mad. Finally, someone said, "The Buddha is here. He has medicine for all ills." She went to him, laying her child at his feet, and begged for the medicine of life. The Buddha looked at her with infinite compassion. "I can help you," he said gently. "But you must bring me one thing, a single mustard seed from a household that has never known death." Hope ignited in Kisa's heart. A simple mustard seed. She left her child's body and went door to door. At the first house, they readily gave her a mustard seed. But when she asked, "Has this house never known death?" the woman's face softened. "Oh, sister. Last year we buried my husband. Death is known here." She went to the next house, and the next. At every home, she received a mustard seed, but also a story, a father lost, a child gone, a sister passed. As the day wore on, the pile of seeds in her hand grew heavy, but heavier still was the dawning understanding in her heart. By evening, she had not found a single house untouched by death. But her frantic grief had been transformed. She was no longer alone in her sorrow. She saw that death was the shared condition of all life, the universal law. She returned to the Buddha, not for medicine, but for understanding. She said, "I could not find the seed you asked for. But I found something else. I found that I am not alone in my suffering. Please, teach me the way to live with this truth." The Buddha then taught her about impermanence, about the end of suffering through the release of clinging. Kisa became one of his most devoted disciples. The story's power is not in a magical cure, but in the transformative journey. Our deepest pain often makes us feel isolated, uniquely cursed. We search frantically for an exception to life's hard rules. True healing begins when we realize our suffering connects us to the shared human experience. This doesn't diminish the pain, but it removes the isolating poison of, "Why me?" From that shared ground, genuine compassion for ourselves and others can grow, and the real path to peace can begin. If you carry a private grief or pain tonight, imagine the mustard seeds in Kisa's hand. You are not alone in the house of mortality and change. This shared truth is the foundation of universal compassion, starting with compassion for your own hurting heart. Imagine a room where every surface, walls, ceiling, floor, is a perfect mirror. You step inside and close the door. Suddenly, you are surrounded by infinite reflections of yourself, stretching in all directions. Every move you make is multiplied endlessly. If you panic, you see infinite panic. If you reach out, infinite hands reach back. This is how our mind can feel when we are trapped in self-referential thought. Every worry reflects off the past and future, creating endless versions of the problem. Every self-judgment echoes infinitely. We feel trapped in a hall of mirrors of our own creation. Now, imagine finding a single spot on one wall that is not a mirror, but a clear window. You look through it and see a vast, open sky, a tree moving in the wind, clouds drifting. The endless self-reflection is broken by a connection to something larger, impersonal, and free. Meditation is the practice of finding that window. Your breath can be that window. A sensation that is not a thought about yourself, but a simple, present moment experience. A sound in the distance can be that window. The feeling of the fabric beneath you. Each time you turn your attention from the mirror of self-concern to the window of direct experience, the hall of mirrors loses its power. You remember there is a world outside the closed room of your thoughts. You are not the infinite, frantic reflections. You are the one who can turn and find the window. Rest your gaze there tonight. You are climbing a mountain. The path is steep. Your muscles burn. Your breath is short. Your only focus is on the next step, the next rock, the strain. The summit is a distant idea, obscured by effort. Then, you reach a small, flat clearing. You stop. You turn around. The view takes your breath away. You can see the entire valley you've climbed from, rivers like silver threads, forests like patches of moss. The struggle of the climb is still in your body, but now it is framed within this vast, beautiful perspective. The climb hasn't changed, but your relationship to it has. It is now part of a larger, magnificent journey. Our daily struggles are the climb. We are so close to them, identified with the burning muscles of our stress, the shortness of breath of our anxiety. Mindfulness is that turning point. It is the conscious pause where you step back from identification with the struggle. You don't deny the difficulty, but you see it from the wider perspective of awareness itself. From this vantage point, the struggle is not all there is. It is a movement within a vast, still landscape that is your true nature. You can turn around right now. Feel the weight of your body on the surface beneath you. That is the clearing. Hear the ambient sounds, that is the vast valley. Your thoughts are just the path you've been climbing. Rest in the view. The climb will still be there, but you will carry the perspective with you. In a valley, a stonecutter was hired to carve a pathway through a massive boulder that blocked a village's access to fresh water. He had only a simple hammer and a chisel. On the first day, he swung his hammer 100 times and made only a tiny white nick in the stone. He went home disheartened. The second day, another tiny nick. The third, the same. For weeks, it seemed he made no progress. Villagers would pass and shake their heads. Some suggested giving up, finding another way. But the stonecutter had a practice. He did not focus on the unyielding boulder. He focused on the swing. The feel of the hammer in his hand. The sound of the chisel meeting stone. The rhythm of his breath. He trusted that each swing mattered, even if he couldn't see the change. Then, one day, after what felt like 10,000 swings, something shifted. A hairline crack appeared in his tiny cluster of nicks. A few swings later, a small piece flaked off. Then another. The progress remained slow, but it was now visible. The boulder was yielding, not to a single mighty blow, but to the cumulative power of consistent, patient effort. Months later, the path was complete. Water flowed. The stonecutter was hailed, but he simply smiled. He knew the secret wasn't strength, but patience and attention to the single, present swing. Transforming the boulder of our habits, our restless minds, our deep-seated patterns, is like this. We want a single breakthrough, a magic hammer that shatters our anxiety forever. It doesn't work that way. The Buddhist path is the practice of the patient stonecutter. Each moment of mindfulness, each time you notice you're lost in thought and gently return to your breath, is a single swing of the hammer. It feels insignificant. You may do it 100 times today and see only a tiny nick in your old patterns. You may feel disheartened. But trust the cumulative practice. Trust the process. Each gentle return strengthens the muscle of awareness. Each moment of patience weakens the solidity of reaction. One day, a crack will appear. An old habit will lose its grip. Not from drama, but from the quiet, relentless power of showing up, swing after swing, breath after breath. Your practice right now, of simply listening, is a swing of the hammer. It matters. On a festival night, thousands of small paper lanterns are placed on a still pond, each with a tiny candle inside. From the shore, you see a breathtaking spectacle, a field of gentle lights covering the dark water, each one separate, yet all part of a single, radiant scene. Now, imagine you are in a boat in the middle of the pond. Your perspective changes. You see the spaces of dark water between the lanterns. You see that each light is distinct, floating on its own. The beautiful whole is made of separate parts. Now, imagine you sink beneath the surface and look up. The dark water is gone. Above you is a continuous, undulating ceiling of golden light, broken only by the shadows of the boats. The separateness has dissolved into a unified glow. Our experience is like this. From the everyday shore of our thoughts, we see separate phenomena. Me, you, my problem, your success, joy, sorrow. They seem solid and distinct. With mindful attention, the boat, we see the space between things, the awareness in which thoughts arise. We see the emptiness that defines form. In moments of deep peace or insight, under the surface, separation may fall away entirely. We may glimpse the interconnected glow of all existence, the undifferentiated awareness from which everything arises. This is a taste of the non-dual understanding pointed to in deeper Buddhist teachings. You don't need to sink deep tonight. Just know that the view from the boat is available. You are not stuck on the shore, identified with every single lantern of thought. You can float in the space that holds them all. A traveler walked a long, dusty road under a relentless sun. With each step, dust coated his skin, his clothes, his mouth. He grew weary, thirsty, and irritated by the constant grit. He cursed the road, the sun, the wind that stirred the dust. After many miles, he came to a river, wide and clear. He drank deeply, then plunged in, washing away every grain of dust. As he floated, clean and cool, he looked back at the road from which he'd come. He had a sudden realization. The road was not the problem. The dust was not malicious. The sun was just shining. The problem was his relationship to the journey. He had been fighting it, resisting it, identifying with the discomfort. In doing so, he had become one with the dust. Life is the road. Challenges, annoyances, weariness, these are the dust. We spend so much energy cursing the conditions, wishing for a different road. The river is the practice of mindful acceptance. It is not changing the road. It is cleansing your perception of it. When you stop fighting the dust, when you accept, this is a dusty road, I am weary, something shifts. You are no longer fused with the irritation. There is a space, the road is there, the dust is there, and you are here, aware of both. That space is the beginning of freedom. It is the cool water of the present moment, washing you clean of resistance. You are in the river right now, in this moment of rest. The dust of the day is washing away. You are not the dust. You are the one feeling the water. An old Cherokee tale speaks to the heart of Buddhist practice. A grandfather is teaching his grandson about life. A fight is going on inside me, he says. It is a terrible fight between two wolves. One is evil, he is anger, envy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. He continues, the other is good. He is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The grandson thinks about it for a minute and then asks, which wolf will win? The old man simply replies, the one you feed. This is the essence of karma in Buddhism, not fate, but intentional action and its consequences. Every moment, you are feeding a wolf. The wolf of worry gets fed when you follow an anxious thought down its rabbit hole. The wolf of peace gets fed when you return to your breath. The wolf of self-criticism gets fed when you replay a mistake. The wolf of compassion gets fed when you offer yourself kindness. Meditation is not about killing the bad wolf. That is just more violence, more feeding of struggle. It is about consciously choosing which wolf to nourish with your attention. When you sit quietly and observe an angry thought without acting on it, you are starving the anger wolf. You are not feeding it with reaction. When you gently guide your attention to a feeling of calm in your body, you are feeding the peace wolf. You have that power in this very moment. Which wolf are you feeding with your attention right now? You can choose to feed the wolf of rest, of listening, of letting go. You are having a dream. In the dream, you are everything. You are the mountain, feeling its ancient weight. You are the river, knowing its endless flow. You are the tiger in the forest, feeling its power and grace. You are the child laughing, feeling pure joy. You are also the one who is lost, who is afraid, who is searching. In the dream, each of these feels completely real, completely separate. The mountain does not know it is the river. The tiger does not know it is the child. The seeker does not know they are also what they seek. Then, within the dream, a subtle whisper arises, not from any character, but from the fabric of the dream itself, remember. Just a hint. The mountain feels a fluidity. The river senses stillness within its motion. The tiger glimpses a playfulness beneath its ferocity. The seeker feels a familiar warmth in the heart of the search. This whisper is the beginning of waking up, not from the dream of life, but within it. It is the dawning recognition that the awareness dreaming the mountain, the river, the tiger, and the child is one awareness. Your awareness. The forms are many. The witness is one. This is the deepest invitation of the Buddha's enlightenment, to recognize yourself not as any single character in the dream of existence, not solely as the warrior, the achiever, the sufferer, the happy one, but as the vast, loving awareness in which the entire dream is appearing. You don't have to figure this out. You can't. You can only relax into the hint. The whisper is in the peace you feel when thought subsides. It's in the space between sounds. It's in the feeling of being the one who is listening right now. As these stories and teachings settle into your heart, let go of them all. Let them be like stones dropped into a still pond. They create ripples of understanding, but then they sink, leaving the water clear once more. You have journeyed deep into the forest of wisdom tonight, but you have never left the sanctuary of your own being. The peace you sought in stories was the peace of the one listening to them. The stillness you admired in metaphors was the stillness you provided as their receiver. You are the lake that clears when left undisturbed. You are the weaver who can release the form. You are the silent bell, the garden receiving rain, the carver who listens, the deep cool bed of awareness, the shimmering lake, the bridge of breath, the lantern flame, the one who sees the empty boat. You are Kisa learning of shared humanity, the stonecutter trusting the swing, the light both separate and unified on the pond. These are not qualities to attain. They are truths to remember about what you already are. So as sleep draws near, or as you move back into your waking world, carry only this gentle knowing: you are already home. The temple is not a place you visit. It is the aware, peaceful presence that you are. Monk's temple is here, wherever you are, whenever you remember to rest in simple, wordless awareness. Thank you for sharing this time of peace. Until we meet again in this sacred space of listening, may you be gentle with yourself. May you remember the whisper within the dream. May all beings be happy. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free. Good night.